There's a moment most dads don't talk about. It's not when the kids are little. It's not when they're running to the door yelling, "Daddy's home." It's later. When the house is quieter, when the hugs aren't automatic anymore, when you start replaying things in your head, the things you did right, the things you wish you'd done differently, the times you were tired, the times you were short, the times you were trying your best, but you're just not sure it was enough. In the Gospel of Mark, there's a moment when Jesus speaks one word over a man who couldn't hear. Ephatha. It means be opened. Open to hear again. Open to speak again. Open to what was closed off. Maybe that's what some of us dads need now. Not to relive the past, not to defend it, but to be opened again. Open to grace, open to redemption, open to the idea that you were the dad you were, and there is grace for that. But you also have permission right now to soften, to reach out, to grow, to make things right where you can. Daddy Needs a Hug isn't about parenting tips. It's about honesty. It's about memory. It's about men who loved hard, tried hard, and still wonder. Because sometimes Daddy needs a hug too. Welcome to Daddy Needs a Hug, where dads get to tell their story of raising their kids. Stories of failure, stories of success, and stories of redemption. But even if that's not your story, we want to share it. Welcome back to Daddy Needs a Hug. I'm DJ Davis, your host. Every dad has a story. Some stories are loud and dramatic. Others are built quietly over decades of showing up, making sacrifices, making mistakes, and trying to love their family the best way they know how. Today's guest is Frank Murray. Frank has been married to his wife, Talia, for 24 years. Together, they've raised two daughters, Payton, who's 22, and Learson, 19. On paper, that sounds like a pretty straightforward story. But if you've been listening to this podcast, you know there's never the whole story. Because fatherhood isn't measured by anniversaries or birthdays. It's measured in conversations you wish you had, moments you wish you could do over, the victories no one else notices, and the quiet decisions to keep showing up every single day. That's what we're after. This isn't about pretending we've got parenting figured out. It's about opening the door for honest conversations that remind every dad listening that they're not alone, and maybe give a son or daughter a better understanding of the man who raised them. So today we're going to talk with Frank about marriage, raising two daughters, the lessons that only time can teach, the regrets every father carries, and the moments that made him realize what really matters. Frank, thanks for being here. Welcome to Daddy Needs a Hug.
Thanks for having me.
So before we get started, tell me what it was like or tell me about Payton and Learson, who they are, and what were they like as little girls?
Yeah, I mean, Peyton's an extremely hard worker. Both kids very smart, very, very smart. Payton worked real hard at everything in education. You know, she had a 4.0 in college, played college volleyball, just graduated this May. She took 18 hours one volleyball season. Just a hard worker, always after, you know, getting her studies done and making sure she was still making practices and doing everything she needed for the volleyball team. Learson, extremely smart, and we'll get into that a little bit later, but extremely smart, kind of takes it a little bit easier and is a little more laid back. Payton is very competitive, come at you, you know, and just ready to play and to win at everything, and Learson kind of hides her competitiveness, so it's pretty fun. But yeah, Payton started her new job. She's in business marketing with Whiting Turner in Fort Worth. She's done a lot of good work for them so far. She's in her first 60 days there. And Learson is doing dental hygiene school right now. So at Temple College, but transferring down to Blinn for their dental hygiene program.
Oh, wow. So what were they like as little girls? Were they very similar growing up or opposites? What were they like
Yeah, I mean they probably became more opposites in about middle school, but very similar as children. Peyton was a little would die on the hill she stood on. You know, you could tell her this is the right way to do it, and she'd fight you tooth and nail and say, "This is why it's not. This is why it's not." Learson's always, as a kid, just she knew exactly what to say and the answer the parents wanted. Right? She'd say, "Okay, I'm sorry, I love you." You know, even she was or wasn't, but Peyton was pretty, just very headstrong. Of no, this is the way it's done. I'm like, no, babe, it's not. This is how we do it. So, but yeah, both great kids. I mean, we couldn't ask for two better kids. I'm very proud of both of them.
All right. Which one of them kept you laughing?
Oh God, both of them in different ways. Though Learson can laugh at herself. Peyton really can't laugh at herself. You know, Learson's probably the funny one. Comes back with the one-liners, but Peyton's a little bit more serious. She's fun. They're both fun kids. But I'd say Learson probably makes me laugh a lot more because she knows what to say in one-liners. So.
Which one would you say challenged you the most?
Oh, at different times of her life, both of them did. Peyton, very competitive athlete, very competitive with her grades. So she just never saw eye to eye with everybody, her teammates. You know, at practice, she'd go as hard as she would in a game, and not everybody wanted that. So she was kind of hard with relationships growing up, and her friends were her friends, but when she played other teams, they didn't like her too much. As later in life they started liking her when they got on the same volleyball team as her, but they just didn't like her because she goes hard. Learson just kind of knew how to maneuver the waters a little bit more on teams, and easier to make friends with. Peyton has lifelong friends. Learson does as well, but Learson will hang out with a lot of people. They all love her. So,
Wow. So before you had kids, when you first got married, did you imagine yourself having daughters, or what was that like?
I mean, the way my family goes, we're going to have a daughter first, and we're going to have a son second. So, I was a little nervous because I'm country boy, just worked on a ranch my whole life, and just learned hard work with that, and was around guys all the time. So I was a little nervous bringing a girl into this world. And how would I handle situations with your little girl? What I mean by that is when something's not going their way, how do you back them up? What do you say? Not knowing everything and not being raised that way, but really just keeping my temper down with other people around my kids, because they are my little girls. So I think that was what I was worried about the most.
So saying that, how did you handle those situations?
I will tell you, I learned a lot from my father-in-law, who has 3 daughters and 7 granddaughters.
Oh,
And just, yes, so we, there's no boys in the family on that side. And it was really just seeing his patience with them. Just sit back, take a breath, be very patient. So, and I think raising girls, you have to have patience. You do, because you don't understand that. Why are we not leaving the house? Why are we still getting ready? It's time to leave, So it's the funny thing, and they'll make fun of this as well, but I would tell them 20, 30 minutes before we had to leave was our time to leave, so we could leave on time places. But just not understand that. Put a ball cap on. Let's go. No, Dad, I can't do that. I gotta get ready. So
when you think about having girls in the early days, did you have trouble relating to your daughters in the beginning?
I coached their sports teams and was around all their friends a lot. So I kind of learned from that what I could say, what I could not say. I would say that I was way harder on my daughters than I was any other players on the team, which is kind of crazy. But I just expected more out of them and what I asked them to do. But really just kind of sitting back, and my Talia is great and would tell me if I was wrong and how I needed to handle the situation with them, because I just really didn't know. But I would say I learned when they were little kids to kind of what I could say, and they'll say that. They'll probably say, "Dad, you're pretty hard," but out of respect and love. But
what would you say surprised you the most about having daughters?
I don't know. That's a great question. Um, I always say this when I was coaching in my coaching days, I coached football and I coached girls softball, and I love to have both sides of that. You know, you're at the football field and you're coaching football kids, and you're just yelling, screaming, and just going as hard as you can go. And then you go to the girls' side to coach, and it's like once you earn their respect, you can ask them to run through a wall, and they'll say, "Okay, which wall you want me to run through?" They just really would do anything you'd ask them to do and play hard for you. I think that's what Peyton was born when I was coaching softball, so I started getting that side of it, and then I continued to coach on that side of it by coaching my kids and just really enjoying watching them grow and play hard and um, I don't know how to explain it. Just really, there's nothing that really surprised me. I just kind of had a little bit of that before, and I grew up with a sister who was great, and asking her, you know, what's the best thing, how to raise them. She had a girl first, she had two boys, twin boys next, and being around my nephews, but being around Kagan, probably my niece, kind of helped me before my kids came along.
Hmm.
So,
What would you say made you the most nervous about having girls?
oh God, dating, dating boys. I always laugh at this, and the girls will tell you every time they brought a boyfriend home, I said, whatever you do to her, I do to you. You hold her hand, I hold your hand. You kiss her, I kiss you. That's what I always was a one-liner with them, and they always laugh about that. But yeah, it's like nobody's good enough for your baby girls, and it's you see faults in guys all the time. So I would say dating was probably the hardest is when they started dating and bringing boys around.
Hmm.
And still to today, Peyton I didn't say that. She's engaged. She has a fiance now. She's 22 years old. And Learson's got a pretty serious boyfriend now, too. So but it is dating, making sure they're picking the right guys that'll, listen to them, take care of them, treat them well.
Yeah, I think I've
So.
met Peyton's boyfriend, and we've played some golf together. Seems like a really nice guy.
He's a big guy.
Yeah,
He's a big guy.
He's a very, yes, he is.
But yes, he's good. He's good.
So what would you say you learned about yourself? What did they teach you about yourself?
I'm going to go back to patience, really is. I'm a firm believer of parenting. If you say something, you follow through with it. I think even if, you don't agree with it. Like if I say, hey, you're grounded for a week, and then I think back like, it should have been 2 days. I'm like, no, I got to hold a week because that's what I said, But, and we stayed with that, and my girls might not be completely understanding with that. And I think the hardest thing about raising kids, boys or girls, is you and your spouse having the same beliefs on raising kids. Now, we, with the church and God, we're all about very good Christians. But still, it's how my wife was raised and how I was raised, and you have to somehow find the middle ground of what's right for your kids. But I would say I was not a very patient man. I'm still probably not the most patient man, but I did have to really learn how to be patient with things and listen more and kind of understand their viewpoints. So I would say that was probably the biggest thing that I learned about myself is, I got to kind of sit back a little bit and listen a little bit more and kind of understand their feelings on a lot of things.
Yeah, man. So when you talk about your marriage and that aspect of it, what would you say was the key to keeping your marriage strong for 24 years?
Yeah, the thing is, I think that's one of the hardest parts of your life is raising kids. I officiate a lot of weddings, and that's one thing that I talk about. How many kids do you want? Or do you both agree with that? You need to agree with that before your wedding day to kind of know that. How are you going to raise them? Are you going to raise them in a Christian home or non-Christian home? What's that look like? Talk about discipline. I think Talia and I were always on the same team. Whether I agreed with what she was saying to the girls or not, we were still on the same team. And she was the same way with me. We might get behind closed doors and say, hey, we might need to handle this a little different next time, but we just always had each other's back. And they knew that. They knew they couldn't go to one and get a different answer than they got from the other one. So just being a team as parents is hard for a lot of people to do, but we did it pretty well, I think.
Yeah, that is hard, man. How would you say that you and Talia divided up the parenting?
Yeah, well, both of our girls played multiple sports, and we traveled a lot. Like Payton might be in softball and Learson might be in soccer. They both might be in volleyball at the same time, travel, but one's at this gym and one's on this gym, at this gym. So if the tournaments were close enough, we stayed at the same hotel. If they weren't, we stayed in separate hotels, but we just switched off. Like I would take Learson one weekend, she would take Payton, and vice versa, or we would all just kind of stay together. But, we divided and conquered, but when it came to discipline, we talked about and made sure we agreed with discipline that we were giving them. But we did try to, we were just always around. I come from a broken family, and was raised by my mom, and I knew that I wanted to be a good dad to both my girls, and wanted to be around and wanted to be involved. When Peyton was born, I was still coaching. When Learson was born, I was still coaching, but working my way into the technology field. I was finishing up my master's. Tilly and I were both finishing up our master's degree. So it allowed me to be home more and be present. And as a coach, I was just present as much as I could be. I worked for a great head coach that my last head coach I worked for, that if the girls had a game at Saturday at soccer, he'd say, go, and then just come back to work. That's where I finally got to where I could start being a part and being present on the weekends and at nights with them. So I really appreciated him. But yeah, we just did things together. We really did. We went to the lake every weekend. We had a lake house at Possum Kingdom. We spent a lot of family time together. And the thing about it in travel sports is the same thing is you spend all day, all weekend together. It's great. Getting them up at the hotel rooms at 6:30 in the morning to be on the court by 7:15, they would be griping. I'd be like, we're here for you, right? Like I didn't say, hey, I want to come here. Even though I did, but like we're here for you. You have to get up, and you're the reason we're here. But I would say we really just didn't divide. Talia might handle more sensitive topics than I would handle, and they would go to her for sensitive topics probably. But we just tried to be on the same team.
What's the one thing that you admire about her the most as a mother?
Oh God, my wife's a saint. She really is. She's extremely patient with them. She understands, but the thing that I admire, she will push back on them. Like they might want, like, Mom, I just need this. I need you to think this way. And she's not going to. That's one thing that we agreed on. We'd never lie to our kids. Like, not even if it's going to hurt their feelings. We would just present it in a way, but we're still not going to say you're right on this. So, they might come off the court and say, Dad, how to play. We would tell them, like, hey, you play pretty good doing this, but you need to work on this. And they didn't always love that because kids just want, give me just affirmation. But we just were very honest with our kids, with grades, with school, with ways that they interacted with others. We just tried to help them grow. So
that's great. Were there difficult years?
I wouldn't say difficult years. I would say Payton high school might have been. We went from one high school to the other, to another high school for better opportunities, and we moved. So that might have been hard. We moved Learson the end of her sophomore year to move to Central Texas. We thought we were in our forever home. But I would say both of our girls kind of made it a little bit easier on us, and they're just kind of working through the process and trying to make the best out of things. But I'd say no, not terribly hard years. Yeah, I'd say it was pretty good years. Can't think of any that we just struggled in.
What would you say was your biggest parenting mistake?
I really don't know. I would say probably my kids know I love them unconditionally. They know that. I probably didn't tell my kids how proud of them I was enough. It was almost expecting, both my kids were very successful at a lot of things that they did. But maybe too critical on them, trying to help them be better. It might have been the coach coming out in me and just saying, hey, I'm just so proud of you being this level. I think I started figuring that out probably not till Payton was in college. Started figuring that out and tell her how proud I was of her more often. And Learson was probably her junior, senior year of high school, about really just telling them. They know I love them, but I probably didn't tell them how proud and how awesome they are enough.
Yeah. I think that can be hard for men sometimes. Just to, you and I play a lot of golf together, and we spent time on the golf course, and I think sometimes it's hard for men to just be proud for somebody else because of the competitive nature that we have within us. I know certainly it has or was hard for me to do that with my kids, and maybe that just comes from being competitive. Also, I grew up with 3 brothers. Not very many girls around. My first kid was a daughter, and that was pretty hard for me too. So,
I think you do what you know, but like with me, I tried to break the cycle. With my dad not being around as I grew up, he came back in our lives at 17, but I just really tried to break the cycle. I think not just with my kids. When I was coaching and teaching in the classroom, it was really working with students that came from that similar background and just letting them know it's going to be okay. What do you want to do? Like, do you want to break this cycle? Do you want to just continue to the reoccurring factors of it? And I'm saying you can get out of this and make yourself better. So I think that was the hardest thing because I grew up very poor, and my mom did everything she could do, to kind of make things a little more comfortable. But that was one thing that I said to my kids all the time. You don't know how good you have it. And they don't know because they've never had to live the other side of it.
Right.
So that was probably, when you say what is my weakness the other day, that was probably my weakness. It's like, I'm like, y'all are spoiled. Like, I should take your phones away. I should take your TVs away. I should take your bedroom door off, just a bunch of different things. Should make y'all share a bedroom. But I'm glad that I'm kind of happy that they were spoiled a little bit, something that I never was. But I also want them to understand the value of $1 and what, to be appreciative of things. And both kids are very appreciative in different ways. Payton's very appreciative and thanks us for everything. Learson, she expects it because her sister got it, but then she still comes down and she's like, yeah, I'm very appreciative of this. It just takes a little bit more to get out of her. But
yeah. When they were little and, you said you wanted to be present with the girls and give them your attention. What was it? Say you're coaching, you're tired, it's been a long day. You probably got home late when the girls are maybe close to getting ready for bedtime or bath time. You're tired, you've had a long day. What was it that you drew on to show up for them when you got home instead of, maybe going inside and kicking it on the couch or whatever? How did you make that switch? Was there a time when you got into the driveway and you thought, okay, I've got to go show up for these girls? What drove you to show up for your girls day after day?
Yeah, I think it was just how I was raised. My mom worked 3 jobs, so we rarely saw her, and my uncle would stay with us or my aunt would stay with us. But I always said that as I want to be present in my kids' lives. So I just had a rule. No matter how late you get home, you still got to be a father. You still got to be present. I even do that today. And my wife would probably say, not always, but like if I'm gone to a conference for 3-4 days, and I'm so tired when I get home, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to stay up and be present with her until it's time to go to bed. I'm just going to stay up and just fight through it because I think that's important. Is being present in your marriage, being present as a father is very important. So just really fighting through that. Like, I did this. I worked hard that day, but I still have to do this. This is the most important.
Yeah. Well, as they were growing up and kind of coming into their own, I didn't experience this, and maybe you did, maybe you didn't. I didn't experience this with my daughter, but when my son was at a certain age, he knew everything. It was, we would say something and he would say, oh, I know, or I already know that, or whatever. I didn't get that with my daughter. Did you get times like that when like they knew everything and they interrupted you a lot? How were those things?
Yeah, I would say like Payton, like I was telling earlier, she would die on that hill always. She would die on that hill. Like, no, this is the way. I'm like, it is our job as parents to teach you the right way, so you go out and be a successful adult, you know. So, but yeah, that happened all the time. And Learson, like I said, we might have that talk with her, but Learson's gonna be like, okay, that sounds right. All right, sorry, you know, but she's gonna do what she wants to do. I think kids have to make mistakes to grow.
Yeah.
They do. They're going to be stuck in like, this is my way and this is what I'm doing. They have to learn from failure. And we have to, as parents, we have to let them fail a little bit, but we have to control those failures, but we have to let them fail a little bit. So, I think it's just, we're going to be your parents and we are going to parent you, whether you listen or not, but this is the right way to do this. And this is why. We wouldn't just say, don't do that. We'd say, don't do that because this is why. So, and try to instill some of those good qualities in them.
Yeah. Was there a shift ever? I know it's so easy to be loving with girls. Was there a time when that shifted and maybe the hugs didn't come so easily?
Yeah, not really. I mean, we are a loving family. I was thinking through that even on the ride over here is every time I see them, we hug. And it might be me walking up for a hug. It might be them coming to me for a hug. We showed love in our family. Like even, a defeat or we're mad at you, we would say, we still love you and we would hug you. I know you're upset, but we still love you and you know that. So I don't think there was ever a time where I would say that Learson used to sit in my lap and then she would run her fingers through my arm hair and for hours. She would just sit there. And Payton too, but as they get bigger, they don't sit in your lap anymore, but they want to be by you and then they don't want to be by you. I think Payton still does that because she doesn't see us as much. Like she'll come home and if she stays a weekend, she'll sit in between Talia and I, but, Learson got more standoffish with us, but as a baby, as a kid, she just always wanted to be up next to you and touching you always. Like, just let me touch, I gotta hold you, I gotta touch you. Like, okay.
Yeah.
So, but as she grew, probably middle school, she started pushing away from that a little bit.
When would you say you realized they weren't little girls anymore?
Probably in middle school, they probably became their own. They still needed the support and everything there, but they really were starting to make their own decisions a little bit more. I would say probably middle school. And I can't put my thumb on it. Both my kids went through COVID. One had her 16th birthday during COVID. We had a drive-by party. So I think that was one thing that they started getting and becoming their own, and then we're stuck in a house together again for a while. But I would say middle school, and I can't put my finger on it, but they just started making more decisions. I think before they just listened to us, and then they were pushing back more in middle school.
Was that a tough time for you to realize like they might not need dad as much?
No, they still needed me. I mean, that's the thing about it is like some things about it as I raised my kids and with the thing in mind is they would find husbands that were similar, not saying I'm the greatest, but qualities of mine. Which qualities of mine are great that you want to see in your husband? But they always needed help with something, still today. Payton actually took care of her car for the first time 3 weeks ago. It kind of killed me. She didn't call and ask me, but I think she's coming into her own she's like, I got to prove to dad that I'm okay. I'm ready for the next steps. I'm ready for marriage. Instead of calling me and me worrying about it and probably putting some of that stress on her fiance too. Like we're going to figure this out instead of calling dad to figure it out. I can call dad and figure it out if you want me to do that. And I don't know if that was a conversation I had, but yeah, they just, she finally took that. Now Learson's still not, it's still good, but.
Does that give you a sense of I'm being replaced?
No, a little. I would say that it's you want to be your kids and your daughter's hero always. Like I'll come save you out of anything, and if that boy's not doing it, then I'll come do it. That's no problem. That's kind of what you kind of think about. But I still want them to need me. I do. And they know that I'll help them in any situation, but also it's a sense of growing up that you're taking care of this yourself, and you're going to be okay without me, you know. So it's kind of hurtful and kind of prideful, both in the same. You got to look at both sides of it.
How do you approach that with her fiance in the manner of earlier you said when they brought boyfriends over, you would tell them, whatever you do to her, I'm going to do to you, and things like. How do you maybe counsel him on how to treat your daughter, or what you expect of him as maybe taking on a little bit of that role now?
So he came to my house Super Bowl Sunday, halftime, to ask for my blessing on their marriage. I said, strike one, Brock. I said, strike one. But then I set him down and I asked him a set of questions. And I can read them too if you want to hear them. I gotta pull them off my phone. But what was important to me is, have you talked about kids? How many do you want? What does that look like? Are you raising them in a Christian family or are you not? I don't want her to live in an apartment. Are you financially stable enough to get a house and set your roots? What are your roots? Who do you have somebody that's a father and that's a husband that you can reach out to and ask questions, like a model dad that you know? And who is that and why? I ask him questions about, like, again, where are your roots at now? We think family is important. We don't want to be traveling to Maine to see her. We don't want to be traveling to Alaska to see her. Like, we want to stay close. What does that look like? I'm trying to think what else I asked him. In the end, it was, do you love her? And does she love you? And that's all it takes. It's happy. But I want you to think through these things. This is what being a successful husband looks like.
Yeah.
It really does. So
I
had a list of questions, and we probably talked for an hour out on the porch, and I'm missing the Super Bowl, so I almost gave him strike two. But
I imagine some of those questions are a little more important than others, but I assume the do you love her and does she love you question is the most important.
Right.
But out of those questions, did you think there were any of those questions that he was going to answer that was going to change anything?
It wasn't going to, well, there's going to be a counseling session, you know. But no, he actually had, I was pretty apprehensive when he got there, you know, to talk. I kind of knew it was coming. He'd try to make a couple other drive-bys, but that we had that ice storm and a couple other things. But I actually liked his answers. I really did. But I made him tell me the why behind them. And but I knew he loved her. I knew that. But you can't just love, because there's going to be red flags that pop up, that things, and like, what drives you crazy about her? Like, what does she need to fix? What does that look like? What does that look like in marriage? When I do pre-marriage and counseling with people that I officiate their weddings, that's one of the questions that come up too, is like, what's her red flag? Can you live with that red flag? Because when you get married, it doesn't mean they're going to change. Yeah. This is who they are. They could change that, but more than likely they're not going to. Can you live with that the rest of your life?
Actually magnifies a little bit.
It magnifies, yeah.
Spending more time with them.
So, yeah, just asking questions like that to him. But like I said, I agree with his answers. He's a hard worker. I like him. He's a very nice guy. I'd say kid, but he's 6'7", 270. He's a pretty big boy. But when I did tell him, whatever you do to her, I do to you, his eyes got real big. So, but that was one of the first times I met him.
If you could relive like a typical Saturday when the girls were, say, 12 or 13, what would that look like?
I'd relive two of them. I always loved our lake weekends together, because we didn't spend any time apart. And it was like I got them to myself and not with other people around. Now, we might have people out there visiting too, don't get me wrong, coming to the lake with us. But I felt like we got true family time without a lot of interruptions. Now, there's a lot of work that goes behind that, getting the boat ready, getting the water, getting all that stuff that was kind of stressful. But we got to spend time, and I got to see them having fun, surfing and wakeboarding, just being a part and just enjoying life. And I would say those weekends, volleyball tournaments and softball tournaments were just a lot of fun to see them go out there and compete. come off, just competing and hanging out with friends and being successful. And there's probably a third one in there, another Saturday when we used to go, even when they were in middle school, we'd take them to Mexico with us. And that's again full time. I kind of get selfish now that like both of them asked the last time we took on vacation, can our boyfriends come? I said, no.
Yeah.
I said, this might be the last vacation I get with y'all. Absolutely not. And they were both kind of down about it. But I thought that was our last hurrah. One last family vacation without the boys around, just the four of us, enjoying each other and having a great time.
And how was that last vacation?
It was great. It was great. It was really good. It was really good. We actually got caught in Hurricane Beryl in Mexico. We had to stay an extra 4 days. So so it wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
But
What do you think daughters need most from dad?
support, knowing you're going to be there, knowing that you're going to protect them. I think that Payton did move into her first apartment. She when she started this new job in Fort Worth, she moved to an apartment, and I said, get a house or rent a house or something. She's like, I just don't feel safe. And it's because she's there by herself. She's not there with a roommate. She's not there with her dad. I always made them feel safe. So really just make them feel safe, making sure they can ask you any question. We told both kids, if you get drunk and you're at a party and you need to come pick us up, we're not going to be mad at you. Call us, have us come pick you up, that they can trust you, that you're there for them, that they can talk to you. I think both of my kids know that they can talk to my wife and I about anything, and we won't judge them. We'll just kind of help them through the situation. But I think support, safety, and just knowing they can ask you anything.
Yeah. What does protection look like when they're not under your roof and
Ooh.
when your daughter lives 2 hours or 2.5 hours away? What does protection look like?
I think they both know if they called me and needed something and we're not safe, that I'd jump in the car and be heading that way as fast as possible. But it's hard on me, as a parent. You want to keep your kids safe when they go out, I always make this joke, and I still believe it. Tully and I are empty nesting now. We get home, we look at each other like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? We can do that now. I say you give your kids 18 beautiful years and let them spread their wings, and you do want them to spread their wings. You want them to be successful on their own in school and their work and whatever else they do. Learson's working a lot right now. Is being very successful, working out Wildflower and at Dutch Brothers, but and still going to school. But you still worry about them. You still want to maybe look at Live 360, and then you don't, because you don't want to invade their privacy as adults and want them, but you still want them on there in case something happens. But yeah, you just want to make sure they're safe at all times, and you don't know, because you don't hear from them every day anymore. You don't see them every day anymore. You might hear from them once a week, maybe twice a week, once every 2 weeks. You never know. And you don't see them as much anymore.
Yeah.
So that's probably the tough part. I don't want them to come move back in, but I do want to see you,
Right.
a few days in a month, So,
how has that changed, or has it changed the dynamic between you guys now that you don't see them as much or talk to them as much? And does that make the time that you do spend with them a little more special?
yeah, I think so. I think it's I think all kids are selfish from about 18 to 22, really. Like, if they find something better to do, they're for sure going to do that. We feel that with Learson right now. Like, Learson will be like, hey, I'm going to stop by tonight. They didn't stop by tonight because something more important. She's close to us. I think Payton, she wants to be around us more, and she's even when we're in Lubbock, the thing about it was she was playing college volleyball. We tried to make as many games as we could. Her senior year, we made all but 2, so we were still seeing her a lot. And then volleyball season was over, and then we really didn't see her till maybe Easter, and then maybe graduation. So it was just a little bit more in between. But I want them to spread their wings and find their next steps and find their careers, and and kind of help them along the way. But yeah, it'd be nice to see them a little bit more.
What does success look like in your daughters when you think about maybe 5 to 10 years down the road, what does success look like?
Yeah, well, I hope they both wait about 10 years to have grandbabies so I can empty nest for a little bit longer, which I know they probably won't. But success to me is just continue with their dreams of what they wanted to do. Payton was wanting to be a lawyer. She was going to go to law school. She was there doing criminal justice, and she just really thought through the process of she wants to have a family and raise kids. She does, and she's thought from that side it was going to be a little bit tougher. So she kind of switched careers later into business marketing. But getting married, have a successful job and a job that you wanted, having a family, that's success to me. And Learson's very goal driven of being a dental hygienist, and is pushing her way to that. And she wants to be 21 years old and in the workforce and making money. And but I think finding the right spouse is very important, and somebody that treats her well and they're not financially constrained to not do what they want to do. We all can't do what we want to do, but at least, put food on the table and pay the bills. And then, raising kids and raising them the right way to be successful as well. We got lucky. Talia and I talk about it all the time. I think we were good parents, but we had good kids too. We got very lucky with both of our kids. Because we hear horror stories all around. So, I think we did some things right and raised them in the church. We did a lot of things right, and hold them accountable to everything. We held them accountable to everything, but I think we still got a lot of luck in it too. So very blessed.
You mentioned raising them in the church, and also sounds like there was a lot of time on the road doing volleyball and softball, or I'm assuming softball, but especially volleyball. How were you able to carve out that time for church and to root them spiritually?
Yeah, I mean, if we were home on Sundays, we were going to be in church. We're on the road. The thing about it is we pray before every meal. We pray at night. We make sure that we're staying close with God and protecting us, and making sure we're okay, and making sure we're still, talking about Him and living our walk with Him. Payton went to Lubbock Christian University, which was probably the best thing for her. Her faith was very strong when she went there. Her faith came out way stronger. They have chapel hours, chapel every day. They had so many they get. And as a team, with her, it was if they were going on a 12-day volleyball trip where they're having chapels on the bus, they're still doing all throughout and getting their hours. So as a team, one of the team members would run Bible study, or the coaches would run Bible study, but they still had that on the road. So her faith is stronger now than it's ever been. Learson, she works every Sunday at Wildflower, which makes it tough. So we're still working on her. Where's this fit in? But she knows that we're still going to pray every time we're around, every time before we eat, every night before we go to sleep. But being on the road all the time makes it hard, because you played Sundays during church time too, all the time. It just did not fit in. But we just made sure we took care of it at home or the restaurant or wherever we were at.
I do feel like that's one thing that I don't really care too much about competitive sports, even with competitive baseball, any kind of competitive sport. They're generally running tournaments on Sundays. And there are a lot of people who are missing out on church.
That is, agreed.
They're taking their kids to these tournaments and stuff. What would you want your daughters to tell their kids about you?
I don't know, that I was funny, I would say the biggest thing is present. I was present in their life. That Dad knows how to do everything. They say that all the time. I'll just call Dad. He knows how to do that. And they just loved them. They loved them. That's probably the biggest thing, is love, supported, protected, and, had a sense of humor.
Yeah. Who initiates the hugs?
It depends. It depends what they want. But not really. We always kid that about Learson. It's like, you only hug us when you want something. But it's not true. Like, I don't know. We've always showed love in our family, and we've always hugged our kids. just to let them know that, we might be mad at each other before we go to bed, but we're going to hug and say we love you. We always say we love you. So I would say with Payton, her probably more. With Learson, probably Talia and I. But Learson won't leave without giving a hug. It's just instilled in her now.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's important with your kids, is to hug them and let them know they love you. You love them, even when you're both mad at each other. I think it's just becomes the habit of knowing that, hey, I want to show some affection. I want to hug you. But I still want it to mean something. I don't want it to just be, I'm hugging you just to do whatever. But yeah, we've always hugged our kids.
So do you think dads need hugs as much as the kids do?
I think dads need hugs more, especially like when, I don't know, especially when the kids move out and you quit hearing from them so much. And I think it is a thing to show respect and love. And so absolutely, I think dads probably need hugs more than kids do.
I agree, man. I think one of the reasons that I started Daddy Needs a Hug is because I'm a hugger. I love it, man. And just those really strong embraces. My daughter is more of a side hugger. You might get 2 pats out of her, and my son is a big hugger, and I just, like, when he's around, I love it. And,
yeah, if they side hug me, I say, hug me like you love me. Get your other arm around here.
Yeah, I like that. That's good. So as we close, as we come to the end, is there anything that I didn't ask you, or anything that you would want listeners to know about Payton or Learson, or even parenting daughters? Any advice that you would give? This is not really an advice podcast, but like, is there anything that you would want girl dads to know? As there might be some young guy out there that's got a 2-year-old girl and he's scared to death, and he could probably just use some sage advice.
Yeah, I think it's the biggest thing is listen. And even though you don't understand it, because you're never going to understand it, you're never going to understand raising a daughter. Their feelings, like, you just look at their feelings, you're like, that's just silly. Why does that make you feel that way? And we always say, don't let anybody else have that much control over you to make you feel that way. We say it all the time. But sometimes girls struggle with that, and daughters struggle with that. So it's really just listen to them. And even though you don't completely understand their issue, you just understand how it makes them feel. Not what the issue is, but how it makes them feel. There was a funny story I was going to say that popped in my head earlier that kind of explains really Payton's personality and Learson's personality. When they were in elementary, Payton tested for GT and she got in right away. Learson tested for GT. She didn't get in. So a couple months go by and we're up at school and we're like, well, will y'all retest Learson for GT? Like, I don't know how she missed the mark on that, but I understand, her test grades and she has great grades. I understand she didn't get into gifted and talented. They said, yeah, we'll retest her. So they retest her, and she got in. We got the note and got in. We said, Learson, you got into GT. She said, I knew drawing that mustache on the rabbit would get me in. Learson plays the game. She's super smart, plays the game. Payton works hard for everything. But Learson always can think through processes like that. And I was going to say that about Payton too, Payton and Learson too. I said Payton was very competitive, like goes hard, practice, games, whatever. Got her school paid for it. Learson kind of more standoffish, and I always tell this story because it's kind of funny and people laugh at work. Learson's senior year in tennis, she played volleyball, basketball, tennis. She did everything as well and played. And Payton has a 30-inch vertical jump. I think Learson's was 24, and I never knew Learson could jump that high. She's like, Dad, I got a 24-inch vertical jump. Well, that won't show me. And she did. I was like, oh, well, Learson, she's kind of that little hidden, play the game way smarter, not just hard. She played it very smart. But Learson and her partner in team tennis got out of district. Their goal was just to make it to regionals. And like I said, Learson wasn't very competitive, but hidden competitive. We get to regionals, and I tell her about work. I said, hey, I'm going to go to regionals. Learson said that she's happy there. They're probably not going to win today. I'll see y'all this afternoon. Well, Learson win day one, and she's supposed to stay in a hotel with the team that night. Well, she didn't even bring a bag. She wasn't even expecting to win at regionals. So we had to drive back to Troy. We were living in Troy at the time, and drive a suitcase back for her. And so did that, and she said, we won't get out. And then they win game one the next day. So now they're going to state. So that's what I mean by her being hidden competitive. They won a game at state. She didn't really show it, but then she got there and play her tail off and play smart. But both kids, night and day, you can't make them the same, nor would you want to. They both have characteristics that are beautiful. But I think that's the funniest thing about parents raising any kid is you raise kids the same way, but they're just different. And you have to figure out what works with one and what works with the other one, but still holding both of them accountable.
Yeah.
So I'd say that.
Well, one thing I've learned about you, man, in the couple years that we've known each other is that you are a very dedicated father. You're dedicated to your girls. You're dedicated to being there for them. One of the things that I struggle with the most is a trip that you told me about up to San Francisco for, I think, one of Learson's Payton's volleyball tournaments, and then you had to fly back for something else, and then fly back to San Francisco. And I thought, man, there is no way in hell I would have made that trip like that. I would have just had to miss a volleyball game, man. And I've admired that about you. I've admired your dedication to your girls, and I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. Before you go, man, I think we've already answered this question, but are you a good dad?
I think I'm a good dad. I really do. I know I'm a good dad. Is there areas to work on? Absolutely. I think that's hard as a dad. You fail as a dad a lot, but those failures don't define you, right? It's wake up the next day and trying to do better, learning from your mistakes that you made as parents. But yeah, I think I'm a great dad.
And if Learson and Payton were here today, what would they say?
At first or at the end? They would crack a joke and say, "Oh, come on, Dad." And they're like, "Yeah, you're a great dad."
What's one thing, something you've never told your daughters that you would want them to know?
Yeah, I think that comes back. I don't know if there's one thing that I've told them that I've never told them. I just wish I'd have told them more how proud I was of them, of their whole life, not just now as adults and where they're going, but really just sending those messages more and telling them how proud I am of them.
Yeah. Because
we all struggle. They make mistakes, and then you're like, but they really are two wonderful kids. They really are.
Well, man, we wrap up every show here the same way. When you think about Learson and Payton and you just think about their whole lives, their 22 and 19 years, which one do you need a hug from the most?
Probably Learson. Yeah, probably.
Well, man, if I could be Learson for just a minute, man, can we just end the show with a hug?
Yeah.
Love you, buddy. Love you too. Love you too. All right, guys, thank you for listening to episode 3 of Daddy Needs a Hug with Frank Murray. It's been such a pleasure to spend this time with you, getting to know about Learson and Payton, and look forward to seeing you out there on the golf course, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
You bet.